Welcome to The Third Chair, a show about real people, real stories, real life. And here are your hosts for The Third Chair, Peter Grigg and Doug Bazeski.
Welcome to tonight's episode of The Third Chair, Doug.
I'm glad you got that right.
Yes, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have something special to disclose tonight.
We are in a basement.
Our studio is in a basement.
And we have cats above us.
We have 4 large cats above us that sometimes run back and forth.
And they're overfed, but they don't think so.
Oh, they are unhappy with me when I put them on a diet. But occasionally, one of our microphones may pick up a kitty cat flipping, flopping, running, or even having...
Whatever cats do.
Cats do, and occasionally the sound of Doug the producer's wife chasing the said cat. But
because it did something it shouldn't do.
That's right. They know better. They know better. Well, with that, we are going to talk about our special guest tonight.
Very, 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 very special guest.
That's right. Ralph Giordano. He got his degree from a New York film school, and he has his own video and movie production company right here in Colorado Springs. He also co-founded a very special group that meets together called the Pikes Peak Film Forum. He loves to make film. Please welcome artist, actor, director, and producer, may I also add lover of Italian food, Ralph Giordano.
And just all around nice guy.
All around nice guy. Well, we're here with our special guest, Ralph Giordano. Awesome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We are so excited to have you because from the time we were a production company, just itty-bitty babies learning, we were involved with your organization, the Pikes Peak Film Festival, and got some constructive criticism and help and some guidance along the way. For that, we're very grateful, and thank you for showing up.
Well, thank you. And hopefully the advice wasn't only from me, but from fellow filmmakers as well.
It was really good. It was a fantastic network. So that's a good place to start.
Sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the
Peak Film Forum.
Peak Film Forum.
Yeah.
I have a company called Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching. That's I'm kind of...
Well, and it's interesting because everybody thinks that Pikes Peak, we should go with it, but it's just Peak Film Forum.
Peak, yeah.
But everybody calls it Pikes Peak Film Forum, but it's really Peak Film Forum.
So there's an interesting history there.
It is, yeah.
And I know as young people in the field, we were, I'm 60, but newbies.
We're still young.
Yeah, we were invited in.
We're young at heart, right? Yeah.
And so tell us about that. I know you had a hand in its founding, and tell us what it's all about.
Well, 8 years ago, because our 8-year anniversary is coming up in April 2021. So 8 years ago, I was approached by Jamie Hastings, who is a filmmaker and a producer here in town. Actually, she's an Heartland Emmy Award-winning producer. And she had said, Ralph, I was working with her on several projects through the Pikes Peak Library District. She said, Ralph, I want to start a film networking group. Would you be interested? And I said, sure, just let me know what you need and whatever. And so we had a couple of meetings beforehand, and we started it, and we started it together with a few other people. And gradually, as the months went on, everybody got like really busy and hectic, including Jamie. And she said, Ralph, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to hand this over to you if you want it. And I was like, well, okay. You know, I'm in it now. I might as well. Mm-hmm. And here I am 8 years later. And it was the best thing she ever did for me, was to convince me to co-found a group with her and then hand it over to me, because it became a big part of my life. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Now, my understanding was before all the COVID stuff hit, the group was meeting about once a month.
Once a month. We always met the second Wednesday of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And we had moved to a new home, to Cottonwood Center for the Arts. We were very excited about that because, well, it's a haven for artists, all artists.
Yes.
It's a gallery. And they had this little theater upstairs for 75 people that fit 75 people, which is just perfect for us, really. And we really were just getting started when you think about it. We were there just about a year before COVID hit. And so Yeah, it's just interesting how that happened. I mean, just shut everybody down, not only the forum.
Of
but,
course,
yeah, so
of course, but there's something about getting together,
that's
enjoying
it.
the films with popcorn,
That's it.
and
Yeah.
and watching submissions that
Mhm.
were from people that were just beginning to learn the craft, and
Right.
it showed. But
Correct.
the experts would still clap and cheer on,
And
which
then
was
maybe
great.
talk to the filmmakers later on if they so
Mhm.
wanted to. So that's what we're missing. So we're still
Yeah.
doing it online on our Facebook page. We'll once a month show that. Although we're going to a quarterly basis now. So we're
Oh.
once a quarter just because, well, last year a lot of people weren't making films. So, they tried. So to catch up, so we figured let's just do once a quarter and see what we get, and we
Sure.
can do as much as we want online. But what you're missing is correct. You're missing that I bring up the filmmaker after the films and do a Q&A with the audience. So they're missing that whole interaction with
that's
live
really
people. And then we would take breaks in between, and that whole networking part. That's when all the networking happened, is when we took breaks. And then when we ended for the evening, we still hung out for maybe like a half an hour or so, where people could jot down phone numbers, get emails, that kind of thing, if they really wanted to correspond or network with the filmmakers. So that's the part that's missing. I get messages from people all the time saying, Ralph, when are you going to start up again? I said,
Yeah.
as soon as we have permission, as soon as we, and now, because we're recording this in the time of COVID,
Yeah.
but we're also recording it where vaccinations are possible
Yeah.
and happening. Numbers are going down, so hopefully,
hmm
maybe by the end of summer, we might be able to do more.
Yeah, I was able to get my COVID vaccine.
I'm waiting for number 2 in another week, so...
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's when
good.
I'm getting mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
April 5th, so I'm dating it right now, so
Are
everybody
you
knows when we're
getting
shooting
the
this.
Moderna? You get,
I'm on Moderna.
yeah, that's when it's supposed to. That's what I had as well. The second show wasn't too bad, but our director and producer Doug had a less fun time with it.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, everyone's
Yeah,
different.
And
that's
so
what
we
I-
just don't know. But everybody's like waiting. Like, am I going to get the reaction or am I going to be okay? So anyway, I know I will feel better about doing more public things. So
Yeah.
I mean, technically, even what we're doing right now, we all should be wearing masks. According
I'm 6
to,
feet from you.
Yeah.
Canadian
Kind
feet.
of, sort of.
Yeah.
But because I already had my first shot, I'm
Yeah.
like 75% protected. So
Yeah,
you're going,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. But I think everybody's ready to move on. Everybody's ready
Yeah,
to
I think
just
so.
get on with their lives and still take precautions. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
okay with
yeah.
that. But I think that we need to figure that out. So it's been difficult for us to bring back Peak Film Forum when we can only fit 10 people at a time in the theater. And
That-
know that we
that's
used to
tough.
fill
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
Yeah.
or at least have 50 people there.
Mhm.
And we just can't do that now. So I don't want to do anything until we can bring back to
Sure,
a
sure.
degree where we could say, all right, even if it's half full,
Mhm.
maybe.
Well, one of the I try to think of like what is the main purpose if I put it into one, and there's really maybe more than one. I think of learning the craft, but I also think of the networking. As a matter of fact, you have very graciously suggested some people that we're actually going to have on the show at a later date, and I remember one of them's Joe Black, an African American rapper. And I remember he watched the video we presented by a young Russian rapper, and he came over and he was really excited about it. And way back before COVID all started, he even dropped a hint. Maybe we could do some sort of collaboration in the future. And so that was a sign in my mind of like what the Peak Film Forum's all about.
It's collaboration. Like I said, networking leads to collaboration, which is what the forum is really about.
Yeah.
And then about just to kind of piggyback into that, about a year after we formed Peak Film Forum, I was approached by the Independent Film Society of Colorado, IFSOC, which is a nonprofit here in town, that said, think about joining us because it's a perfect collaboration. And I was like, yeah, this is a perfect collaboration.
Right.
So that's how that history was made, where Peak Film Forum is a part of IFSOC, Independent Film Society, and we have been, for 7 years.
Cool. Now, I know people have asked me this before, like, what do you have to do to submit a submission to the big kahuna? I guess that would be you.
Well-
or is there a team of people that look at submissions, or how does that work?
Two different things. So if you're talking about Peak Film Forum and show us your shorts,
Yes.
everybody's welcome. First timers, you could be a young filmmaker, you can be an old timer, it could be your 20th film, it could be your first film. Anybody's welcome. Film festival's a little bit different. Film festival, you submit. Yes, we have screeners and people watch the film, rate the films, on various areas, from directing, cinematography, writing, acting, everything.
Yeah.
And things are selected to be in a film festival because people ultimately will come and pay money to see what they've chosen.
Expect a certain level of quality.
But with Show Us Your Shorts, we wanted to keep it open to everyone. Mm-hmm. In other words, everybody's welcome to show your work and for your first time be able to talk to an audience and get guidance. But it's also great that the people who were experienced were coming to, showing their work, because guess what? They also wanted to hear people's opinions about what they did.
Sure.
So you had, first timers all the way up to people who were award winners, mingling together in one group. So Show Us Your Shorts and Peak Film Forum is always a forum for all artists, all filmmakers, all actors come, writers come, musicians are there, people who would naturally interact with the art of film.
Awesome. Now, just as a disclaimer for you newbies watching, Show Us Your Shorts has nothing to do with underclothes. It is Show Us Your Short Films, in case anyone was wondering, and whether you needed to hide the children. Well, with that, we're going to take a break. I want you to hold that thought. I saw the light go on. We're going to take a break, and when we come right back, we'll be with filmmaker Ralph Giordano. We sure hope you're enjoying this episode of The Third Chair.
Would you like to be a sponsor for The Third Chair?
We would love to have you join us to keep the show going and also help your business. Send us an email about your product or company and let's talk.
And follow us on social media.
Now back to The Third Chair. Welcome back to The Third Chair with our special guest, Ralph Giordano, actor, director, film and video producer, and lover of Italian food.
Well, because I'm Italian, you're just making that assumption.
Yeah, I am making an assumption. You should never assume.
Yeah, no, but that's true.
I'm half
obviously.
Italian, and I love Italian food as well. And so I caught you at a moment at the end of the last section where it looked like you were going to say something profound. Well, did you have a thought on your mind, or shall we?
No, that's just a look I often have.
yeah. All right. Yes.
That just clues everybody.
That's
right?
good. That often helps when you're teaching people to have that. I got a profound thought for you. So a couple of last questions. So with respect to the Peak Film Forum and your role as a movie producer and whatnot, what kind of special things do you do to keep up to date? Like doctors have continuing medical education or continuing legal education. Is there like continuing filmmaker education?
Of course there is.
So what kinds of things do you do besides the practical day-to-day?
You're always looking at what new equipment is available and that kind of thing. So you want to know that. But a lot of that comes from my filmmakers because a lot of them are so young and they use the latest, and greatest stuff. So they kind of bring that to the table and say, well, this is what I just bought and this is this new lens I have and this is what I'm working with now. So a lot of that comes from them and, right down to even like what software they use to edit. So it is kind of interesting. So I think a lot of that information does really come from the group. I'll just call it the group. So the filmmakers that we have that are
the
kind
collective.
Maybe I wouldn't really call them that, but there is a certain amount of collaboration between them. So many of the people who have come to the group and met each other there have become really close friends, where they didn't know each other before. So it has been a great meeting ground, I think, for people. And so collaboration that way of even learning new things. So that's probably one of the best ways I could say that I've learned what's up and coming or what's new.
So suppose someone magically dropped $50,000 cash to help move the Peak Film Forum forward.
Yeah,
that's an alliteration. What would you do with a gift like that? What would for this stage of the development, and we're at the tail end of COVID, what would you do?
Well, since Peak Film Forum is attached to the Independent Film Society, I think part of the funding would go towards the film screenings that we do. so that could be more funded. But I've always wanted to do in a similar way of what the Pikes Peak Arts Council does, which is another great organization in town, which I was on the board for several years. They do micro grants, where a certain amount of money is given out each, quarter or monthly, small amounts. I would love to have that money available to filmmakers and people apply for it. So that's what I think I would do if we had money for the organization, is to all go right into it, but also then to give back to filmmakers. And I think that'd be another great way to get more people interested in coming to the group, because that they know that could be part of that. Right now, everything's free. I mean, it's free screenings for the most part. The film festivals obviously cost money, but to come to Peak Film Forum is free. And but maybe we would do something on a subscription basis where, if you were a member and maybe you paid a certain amount of money every year, that would make you be eligible for the grants.
I really like that idea.
So that's what I would do.
Yeah, I like that idea, because it's amazing how if you're frugal, even $1,000 can be like enough gold to really produce some great stuff.
Well, and in the nonprofit world, it's all about, how do you collect your funds? Where does it come from? Well, it comes from the public. And as you gain more of those funds, then you're eligible for more grants and things like that, So it's kind of like this cycle. So yeah, if 50,000 just kind of plopped in right there, that would get us going. That would be fabulous. Yeah.
All right. Douglas.
Yes. So you don't come from the Springs originally, do you?
No, I'm from New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And don't say Jersey. We don't
Jersey.
say that. We do not say that.
That's just something in the movies?
Well, no, people from Brooklyn say Jersey. People from New Jersey say Jersey.
Oh, there's a little war between Jersey and Brooklyn?
No, it's just the way the accents are. It's nothing to do with anything. It's just how it goes. But people just make that assumption, I suppose.
So,
so I came here a little over 30 years ago.
You grew up and you were close to your father, and how did he?
Well, an Italian family, so of course. And then my parents actually ended up moving here.
Oh,
so
did they?
Yeah, so they were here for the last part of their lives. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. So, how did your parents help you in the arts?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that they did was they never stopped any of us from wanting to pursue the arts, and I think mainly from my father's point of view. My father, when he was younger, wanted to be an opera singer or a singer or be an actor.
Oh, wow.
And he was involved with the arts when he was younger. He did a lot of local plays. He grew up in Brooklyn. And back then, they would have like local radio stations in different parts that kind of catered to the ethnicity of who you are. So he was in the Italian neighborhood. So he went to the Italian radio station and sang Italian opera on live on the radio back then. So that's how he got interested in the arts. And then gave it up. So I think when we were, like me and my older sister, were involved in wanting to be part of the art world, he never objected, never said, no, you'll never make any money from that. He was like, no, encouraged us to do it. I went to a very expensive, private college. I went to New York University, because that was, one of the top film schools that you can go to. So he never stopped me from saying, no, don't do that. He was like, you know what? Go for it.
So you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Since I was young, since I was like maybe 13, 14 years old, I had wanted to make films.
Wow.
So yeah, I started quite young. And that was back in the day when you actually shot film. It was like Super 8 film,
Yeah, boy. Well, it's cool having a sense of a direction in life that young and then having it validated as you go along.
Well, it's interesting as I got older and met a lot of people who were younger, I just figured that they already knew what they wanted to do since I knew when I was younger. And so many young people don't have a sense of direction, I've been pretty fortunate that since we started Forum, I've met so many young filmmakers that really have a good sense of direction, even from when, when they were quite young. We've had people be part of our group, age 15, 16, 17 years old, kind of just coming up and learning, But yeah, I've always had that sense of direction, that's what I wanted to do, and me and two very, very good friends, we all went to NYU together, so we kind of went as a team. It was kind of nice.
Did you direct them, or did they direct you, or was it back and forth?
Back and forth, but that time I was I was very forceful, so
Okay.
I've learned to be more collaborative. But if they were here, they would be telling me like, "No, Ralph, you were quite the voice."
The drill sergeant, the driver.
You're ready to.
Yeah. So now I look back, I'm going, yeah, I could have probably eased up a little bit, and I have learned to do that, obviously. But back then, it was kind of like, well, nobody else is taking charge. I used to say I was the cruise director. Do you remember?
Captain
The TV show, The Love Boat,
Yeah.
Gopher was the cruise lady. And so after a while I realized I was tired of being the cruise director. But we think about it, when you're a director or a producer, you are the cruise director. So,
Right.
so I kind of learned at an early age to kind of maybe take that role.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I got older, be more collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you were younger, did you go to Broadway plays a lot?
Well, when I was in New York, yeah, that's something I did all the time. Well, you're in New York, you have museums, and then you have Broadway, and they make movies there too. So, and there was television there, and at the time, this is really dating myself, but Johnny Carson, he had.
Oh, you
He
started
was
in New York.
New York,
Yeah,
and
I
then
remember,
moved
yeah.
to LA. But
Yeah.
then, where do they do those shows now? New York. All those shows were done at NBC and what they call 30 Rock.
Were you ever interested in doing Broadway, or were you more interested in films?
No, I was always interested in films. I when I was younger, we did theater, and I love theater. I think it's amazing, and I think it's a great way for an actor to really learn their craft. There is a difference between theater and film acting.
Oh my goodness.
And a lot of people bounce back and forth between it, and they do a very, very good job. So yeah, I'm glad I had a little bit of that, but no, I was always interested in film. But the arts in general was always something that was that I was interested in. And going to a school like New York University, it was just at your fingertips all the time, because you're in New York City for number one, and number two, you're surrounded by artists. I was in what was called the School of the Arts, so you were just surrounded by people who were interested in acting and theater and TV and music.
Have you done anything in theater lately, or has it just been
No,
film?
yeah, just film. Yeah. Although it is interesting. I mean, I wouldn't mind.
You mean like you'd like to do like musical theater or
No, I wouldn't mind
Shakespeare with
directed.
stage combat?
No, I think it would actually help me as a filmmaker to direct a theatrical production, a small one. Something.
Yeah.
Local theater is something that's very, very thriving in Colorado Springs. Even through pandemic, it's still survived. They've done the best they could to do things virtually. Again, like we were talking before about forum, it's not the same. It's not, you're not there, you're not live, but we will get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that would be a really wonderful experience. I know a lot of theater people now who are actors and directors who are now coming into the film world.
Of course.
And so I just thought, well, wouldn't it be a nice way to go and be from somebody, from my point of view, who's really more film oriented, to go into the theater world a little bit too.
Sure.
I think it's a great learning experience both ways.
Well,
So interesting you brought that up.
yes, and we're going to, when we return, we will further address that as we talk about perhaps Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Enterprise. He was in the Royal Shakespeare Company before he ever did TV. When we come right back. Hi, this is Peter Gregg on the set of The Third Chair. Our company, 2 Men and a Duck Entertainment, are excited about supporting Quantum Leap Recovery, an audio podcast that talks about all issues about drug and alcohol recovery. So watch for it and listen to it, and it'll be a great time of learning, and hopefully it'll help people that are struggling with these issues have a healthier life. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the third chair. Doug, I know you're really excited that I remember the name of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
The third chair.
There's been episodes.
Have you called it something else?
Oh, I've called it all kinds of things. And we are here with our special guest, Ralph Giordano.
I bet all your guests are special, though. I have this feeling that you say that all the time.
Well, some of them have been very special.
There you go.
People that we want back for a second episode.
Yeah, I know that you've done that. Yeah, so looking forward to seeing it.
Well, and you are a local film and video producer, amongst other things. And I'm interested in knowing some of your history with respect to some of the festivals that have occurred in town. And I don't know, I know one of them was called the Environmental Film Festivals. I know there have others.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe you could just, what is a film festival? And then tell us about the special ones over the years.
Well, in particular, the Environmental Film Festival at that time, this was over 25 years ago, we as a community, I was involved with another film group back then. There have been many over the years, many over the years. And I've been involved with a lot of them. Decided, let's do a film festival. Let's do something more unique. There was nothing along the lines of an environmental film festival at that time. And at that point, the 20th anniversary of Earth Day was going to happen. And they were making a big celebration out of it. So we thought, well, why don't we tie into that? And we did. And just a fascinating, wonderful group of people that we had together to do this, and we were like the little engine that could. And we reached out to huge organizations and said we were doing this, and we got big donations. And once the big donations started coming in, we were able to expand the festival. And as we expanded the festival, we thought, well, why not reach out to Hollywood? And we did. And they responded because it was the 20th anniversary, and this was something new. We were considered the first festival of its kind. It wasn't really an environmental festival that was just about it. There were festivals that had environmental themes and different kind of tracks, but the entire festival was devoted to it. And it became this huge thing. I think we started out way too big is what happened. And we got the interest of all these wonderful people. And we basically brought, at that time, Hollywood came to us. And it was great. And it really worked out wonderful. We had, Disney Channel was one of our sponsors, and Turner Broadcasting was one of our sponsors.
Yeah, I'm really curious about something, because most film festivals have got like categories, right? Comedy, horror, I don't know how many. So like with a horror movie in an environmental film festival, do you have to have like a monster that recycles, or what
could possibly be?
Like how would that fit?
And there were themes. So there's animation category, but things that were environmentally themed. Documentary category, environmentally themed. Comedies, environmentally themed. So yes, everything was the same kind of categories, but themed with an environmental message.
Cool.
So and we were surprised there were that many at that time. There's tons more now. And we lasted 3 years, which was really interesting.
Wow.
But we just kind of ran out of energy, really ran out of funding. People lost interest in it. I'm really happy to note that since then, there's another environmental film festival specifically that's in Colorado, which is kind of nice because it's a very environmental state, I think, that it happens every year in February. I think they just had it. In Golden. So I have yet to attend that and let them know about the history of it, because I don't think they realize it. But anyway, just very, very pleased to see that somebody still does that. And then since then, so 20 years go by or so, I say I'm never going to do a film festival again.
I swear I'll never do it again.
And then 5 years ago, I said, let's do a festival that's just for Colorado filmmakers, and let's just make it a shorts festival. So I was connected with Peak Film Forum and the Independent Film Society. And they said, yeah, let's give it a go. And so we had this little tiny festival, which is growing every year. And we're now in our 5th year, called the Colorado Short Circuit Film Festival. And it's
coming up.
It's coming up. It's a virtual event, and it's going to be again dated for when this show is going to be on. But this year it's March 26th, 27th, and 28th. It's all virtual. You can watch it from the comfort of your own home this
Do
year.
you think that, like this show will probably air in May, that people will be able to buy some sort of ticket if they wanted to and look at it? Will the
No, it's going to be over with, so you have to see it live.
so you have to see it? Okay, so
It's like any other film festival.
Fair enough,
You're
fair
there
enough.
for that length of time, and if you miss it,
I
you
didn't
miss
know
it.
with COVID whether people were looking at it differently in terms of storage or making it available or anything like that.
No, and then there are different probably virtual events that can be done. A lot of film festivals do that over the years, and we're thinking about doing that as well. But most likely what you'll probably see some of the films, especially ones that maybe have won awards because it is a judged event. I'm always in contact with the filmmakers, and with Show Us Your Shorts, we would always have people who had been award winners come and show their films. Maybe a little different this year because again we're virtual, so we might do something either virtually or just on Facebook. But we want to still be able to show those films with their permission. So we'll see.
Sure.
Look, we have this forum that where we can show people. In fact, interestingly enough, so that's Colorado Short Circuit, and that was only for filmmakers in Colorado. But Peak Film Forum, in and of itself, through Show Us Your Shorts, was never just about Colorado. I accepted films from filmmakers from all over the country, believe it or not.
I do believe
We even had films from international. In fact, last summer, a filmmaker from Venezuela contacted me and said, "Hey, I was in collaboration with a filmmaker in Boulder, and we made this film together. Can you show it?" I said, "Sure." And then after that, he had a couple more films, and I said, "Why not?" And it's just interesting that we've reached an international level in showing some films. So that's kind of nice.
What's the longest short you'll consider?
Well, once you hit 30 minutes, you're getting to a point where it's like way too long,
Right.
Says the guy who has a short film that he's working on that's 30 minutes. So.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah, but we're not going to mention that.
Yeah. But ideally, though, for film festivals, I prefer something that's 20 minutes or less. And if you can say it in 10 minutes, great.
Sure.
I have shorts that are in this year's festival that are a minute and a half long. That are just little pieces of animation or whatnot. And it just depends upon what it is, because sometimes those films are just entertaining enough. Are they award-winning films? Probably not. Are they entertaining? Are they good, what I call interstitials, meaning like it's great to show in between something else? Yes. So when you're programming a film festival, you're looking at all types of things, to see, well, what would an audience really like to watch?
I've got two burning questions, probably more, but I really want to know this. First, you put a group of artists in a room and they do not agree on what is good or bad art. Man, all kinds of opinions. How do you get people to judge films? Part of the word I want to say is consistently. Part of it is with the same standards where a lot of times people can't agree. Well, that was good acting. No, that was bad acting. That's good writing, bad writing, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that always happens, and that's what you want. You want that kind of thing happening. So what I do is I make sure that I have an odd number of judges so that the majority wins. So
Nice.
I usually have 3 to 5. So in the voting process, whoever votes the highest of those films are the one. Occasionally it's a little crazy, but usually they're always able to work it out amongst each other to say, okay, well, sell me on this idea. Why should I choose this film? And they'll bring up something that maybe they didn't notice before. Interestingly enough, because this year was virtual, the judges had a month to watch the films online, and they could watch them again. Whereas usually it's a live event, and they just watch them for the first time at the event. And so, and they would take little breaks and kind of talk a little bit until they finally had their final day, and they would have 90 minutes to decide what films were, what they felt were award winners. This time they had a lot of time to talk about it and meet, so really go back and forth and debate. So I don't know whether it was good, better that way or not, because it allowed for many, many more discussion about the films. But I think that each way is valid.
Sure.
Even as we move forward and we get to do live events again, which I cannot wait, I still think there's going to be a place for virtual stuff because it's still different and it's great and it's like this year was fascinating because we couldn't do live Q&A because we weren't ready to kind of do any kind of live cut-ins during the festival, and we had to have everybody pre-record their Q&As, and what we got was a lot of interesting little mini films from the filmmakers, So a lot of the people who are in the experimental category did their Q&A in a very bizarre experimental way. So this was new to me, and I was like, well, this is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And each one was different, rather than just bring everybody on stage and I would interview them, that kind of thing. Everybody had their little bit. I gave them a couple of questions to answer, and not everybody participated. Just like at a live festival, not everybody's there. I was thinking we were going to get all 50 filmmakers to kind of be in part of the Q&A, and it just didn't happen. But in a way, it was less work for me because I had to edit all that together. So I had more work to do for a virtual festival because of all the stuff we had to do in advance.
Wow. Now, we're about to go to a break, but here's the question we're going to have you think about when we come back, and that is Hollywood types. You see Hollywood executives that basically bring people in. You've got 15 seconds to pitch your idea. I'm busy. Get out of here. I really don't want to talk to you anyways. Any truth to the stereotype? Ralph will answer that when we come right back. We'll get back to our guest in just a moment. But
Do you have a story to tell?
would you, yes you, like to be a guest on the third chair?
Send us an email and tell us about yourself and your story.
And please follow us on social media.
Now back to the episode.
Welcome back to the third chair with our very special guest, Ralph Giordano.
He's stressed very because I made a point before that we were all special guests.
Yeah, that's right. You're very special.
There we go.
A local film and video production company person, as well as... Now, do you have a photography business as well? Is that right?
I do. I do. So my video production company I call Archangel Productions, mainly because... So my name is Ralph and my middle name is Michael. Well, two archangels right there.
Yeah.
I grew up as a Catholic at some point, and I said, that's kind of funny and quirky.
Yeah, it is.
So people still think I'm a religious organization. I'm not. So Archangel Productions is the video production end, and then RMG Production, Ralph Michael Giordano, RMG, photography is just the photography end of it.
Primarily still photography?
Correct. So
Do
that's
you do
just
weddings?
my stills. I do not do weddings.
You're a very smart man.
Yeah. No, I
We
did.
discussed doing that.
Yeah.
No, I didn't like it. But I will do like engagement shots. That's different.
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
more fun.
And time to do them over if you mess up.
Yeah. It's true. And with weddings you can't. So I don't really like live events. So that kind of makes me nervous. But anyway, so yeah, I do kind of what I call dramatic photography. I do headshots for actors or corporate stuff. That kind of thing. And then over the past, ever since I got my iPhone, when the camera was right there, I just started just taking what I call random shots, just pictures of things. I consider myself a portrait photographer, but I started just taking pictures of architecture and like things that I would see around me. And so it really expanded what I did. I mean, I never considered myself a landscape photographer or whatever, but because I was just out shooting stuff out in the world, it forced me into that world. And then I just started publishing them and then putting them out on social media, and people started responding to these random shots, that they actually look forward to it. And I know a lot of other photographers who do something very similar, and we all love each other. We all like that we're all doing this. What did you see today? And what did I see today? So it's kind of a neat thing that we kind of, I don't think we challenge each other so much as we just, compliment each other.
And we will be sure to put some contact information at the end of the episode, where if someone's interested in hiring you for a project or finding out more about your services, they'll be able to contact you.
Great.
Well, when we stopped for the break, there was a question that I wanted to know about Hollywood types, because we've seen it in shows and movies and of these gruff producers who like, you've got 15 seconds to give me your pitch, and I'm really not interested in talking to you, but you managed to get here anyways. Don't waste my time kind of attitude. During the Environmental Film Festival, did you run into anyone like that?
Yeah, because we had a direct Hollywood contact where we were trying to entice performers and actors and whatnot to be part of it. And all the actors that we contacted were wonderful. They really, really were.
They always are.
But when we were dealing with the studios, that's where it kind of got a little edgy. And we were dealing with studio types. And not everybody was like that. Some people were very gracious. But yeah, we did run into that a few times where you got that attitude, and there it was. You just saw it, and you're going, wow, I don't know how people deal with this stuff,
Yeah.
And you can only see now, based upon like what happened with like the Me Too movement,
Mm-hmm.
where these people just thought that they had power over you no matter what. I could see that happening. I could see where that came from. Where these people thought that they just basically could own you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the bad part of it, but the best part of it was all these wonderful, famous actors who came, and they came of their own, on their own, and they did whatever we asked them to do. They did panel discussions. They did stories for the local news. They really were wonderful, And these were the Hollywood people back in 25 years ago. So a lot of people would go, who the heck was that? But, we had LeVar Burton. People remember who LeVar Burton is because he's part of the Star Trek universe. And he was here. And
Geordie LaForge.
Yeah, he was just wonderful. Ed Begley Jr., a lot of people don't know who he was, but he was on St. Elsewhere.
Yeah, he was great.
He rode his bike to work.
Yeah, and so he talked all about that. And Charlie Haid, who was in Hill Street Blues, not only is an actor, but he's a director, and he directed one of the films that was in our Shorts Festival, so he was there. And Mike Farrell from MASH, big environmentalist, he came out. I mean, these were like top names back then. We were just like looking around at these people, walking around Colorado Springs. It was fabulous,
Wow.
But yeah, so as far as the Hollywood connection is, I would never tell anybody not to do it, like not to go to New York or Hollywood or Atlanta or wherever it is. If they want to be an actor or a filmmaker, you got to pursue your dream no matter what. But I always tell them, I'm going, it's okay if you change your mind if you don't like it. You can always come back home because we still have a big, thriving, independent film community happening here.
But as a piggyback to that, I mean, New Mexico's growing leaps and bounds and incredible tax benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, you can write off 25 or 20 to 25% of tax credits. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's a big incentive. Colorado's growing. Georgia, Atlanta, growing. Miami, Chicago, there are other markets besides New York and LA.
And I think a lot of people are taking advantage of that, especially with Netflix owning a production facility in Albuquerque, which is not that far from Mexico. And we all know that Netflix and a lot of the streaming media services really, really came into their own last year because people weren't going to theater because of pandemic, but people watching streaming media. So companies like Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple TV, all these little companies became huge because these are the ones that were supplying all the new work.
Have you thought about producing something for Netflix?
Do you know somebody there?
No.
So there's your answer.
Yeah.
So yes, I think everybody wants to do that, but it's not as easy as you think.
No.
First of all, you need an agent in order to even present your work anywhere. So they're not going to even look at anything like that. But once you do that, basically is you find a way in. So that's one of the things is. Do we all have wonderful ideas that we think would be great to sell to network? Yeah, you and me and about a million other people.
Of course.
So yes, so the answer to that would be, of course, we all do. We all want that, And I even tell a lot of my young filmmakers, I say, you know what, this might be a great idea to see if you can try to get it in.
Do you remember the actress Elvira?
Yeah, she's from Colorado Springs.
Yeah. We actually were signed by the agent that represented her. But this agent was at the tail end of their career, and so
Cassandra Peterson is her.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's like I never thought I could get an agent. It's like it's possible if you look around.
It is possible, and I think that's what happens when people leave here to go to LA. You try to get an agent, whatever. But you start out here, there are agencies here that you can work with. There's agencies in New Mexico. So as far as an actor is concerned, it's probably more of an acting thing. That's a great way to kind of get started. Because remember, an agent's job is to get you work.
Yeah.
And they get a percentage of it. So
right.
it's up to them to make, that's how they make their bread and butter.
So they want to send you to lots of auditions.
Yeah, they want to do that. Or they want, and if they believe in you and they believe in what your work is and what you have, they want to make money from you, which is good. That's why you have an agent. That's probably one of the first and foremost things if you want to reach that level. But, there are different ways into Hollywood, So one of the ways in is through film festivals and get noticed that way, especially if you enter a film festival and you're accepted into a film festival that's what's called an Oscar qualifying film festival. Once you get into that level, then you're really going to get into
Sundance.
Sundance is an Oscar qualifying festival, and there's quite a few. So you'll know ahead of time, and those are the more difficult festivals to get into because they're looking for top-notch stuff.
Yeah.
But you never know. You just don't know until you try. So that's why a lot of filmmakers spend a lot of money entering film festivals and never maybe even getting in.
Sure.
So you might enter 100 film festivals and get in 3.
So I'm going to ask you a question about something else too here while we're on a roll. I actually became SAG eligible.
Okay.
There was a production crew from Hollywood filming a horror movie in the mountains of Black Forest at 3 a.m, and I actually had a couple of parts. Mm-hmm. And because they couldn't find a union person to do it, I found out afterwards that I actually could join SAG. Now, I didn't. It was way too expensive, and I didn't feel like there were the
if you're going to
benefits
really pursue that.
Sure. Yeah, no, it was just kind of fun that sort of dropped in my lap when I think of young folk that go out to LA and live in their car trying to do that.
Yeah, so I mean that's interesting. There are a lot of people that want that to happen. A lot of actors want that to happen so that they could, work in bigger productions.
Yeah, sure.
And it is kind of happening here. Because there is more commercial work happening in Colorado, New Mexico. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's more opportunity that you will see happening in the next few years for filmmakers and actors in our area. 30 years ago, Colorado was a hotspot for filmmaking, and they used to entice Hollywood here all the time. And then it kind of drifted away for a while. And now I think it's coming back through the New Mexico influence because they really are kind of, are showing that they can make it happen, They just basically opened up their doors and said, come on in.
Yeah. Well, on that positive note, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we will give our co-host, Doug Brzezinski, a chance to ask some questions. We'll be right back. Hi, it's Peter from the set of The Third Chair. I just want to put in a good word for my good friend and owner of 9 Round Kickboxing in Colorado Springs, Melissa Lance. Her studios provide a phenomenal workout in 30 minutes. I know I've benefited from it over the last 2 years. I've lost over 30 pounds and really appreciate the encouragement, the excitement, the expertise of the trainers. It's a great workout. I encourage you to check it out. That's 9 Round Kickboxing in Colorado Springs.
I get to talk. Welcome back, Ralph.
Hey, I'm glad to see you.
So earlier you talked about making a half-hour short
film
that you're working on. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So the film is called Knockout, and it's about a young up-and-coming boxer, kind of a local boxer, who's guided by his manager, who really believes in him. But the problem is he just doesn't have that heart and soul for it. Like deep down, he's afraid of really hurting people. So you can't really have that and be a boxer. So the story's about how he kind of learns to find that inner demon inside of himself to become that person, and is it kind of worth it? So it's that kind of a story. So it's very, very, intimate character study into that. So it just happens in the boxing world. Yeah.
So that's why it takes a half hour. He has 2 conflicts.
He's got a lot. Well, he's, obviously he's got a strong character arc that he has to follow through. And so it was based upon a longer piece that my screenwriter wrote, Lee Graham, who is a creative partner of mine for the past 30 years. And he had this story about this boxer, and I've always been interested in boxing films. I don't know why, but because I don't really like boxing, but I love films about boxing. So I love Rocky, and of course, Raging Bull was something that really came to mind when we were making this film. So much so that we made the film in black and white. So it has that.
Oh, really?
It has that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it has that Raging Bull, but also kind of a film noir look. So there's a lot of boxing film noir films out there too. Right. So we studied all of those. So he had this script that was very much based in that film noir world. And it was very long, and I said, I don't really want to do a long film. Maybe we can come back to it. So I started developing a shorter experimental project, which ultimately I wasn't happy with. It was also about a boxer. Got a hold of Lee again and said, I really want that script. Maybe we can make it happen. He goes, funny that you asked, because I've been working on it. I made it shorter and I kind of changed it thematically a little bit. It's still similar characters, but it's not as dark, but we could still make it a film noir. And he sent it to me and I went, this is it. And this was the fastest we've ever done something. He sent it to me in the summer and I said, this is it. And we started, this was in 2019, and we just started pre-production, and we started casting and did all this, location scouting, got everything together, and started producing the film. And I was lucky enough to also convince my good friend, Jamie Hastings, who we talked about before, who's an Emmy Award-winning filmmaker, to do this behind-the-scenes project for us about the making of the film. Well, she did 12 short webisode episodes of the making of the film, which is just fabulous, which is out there on our Facebook channel. You can watch it, Facebook page called Knockout. All 12 episodes, and she just did an amazing job of basically, which is an hour-long documentary, only broken up into these 12 webisodes
documentary
about the making of our film, which really makes it look even better, But it really talks about, I think, what goes into making a film. It's probably good. I like behind-the-scenes stuff anyway, so I wanted somebody to do that for us, just because I wasn't sure, where it was going to go. And fortunately, it's going in a good direction. So we wrapped production in February of 2020, just before a pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we've just kind of let it sit there for a while in editing and post-production, where it's just about ready now. We're just finishing touches on it for audio sweetening and then music. And it's going to be ready for the festival circuit early this summer. And everybody keeps saying, well, I want to see this film. I'm like, yeah, as soon as this festival circuit's done, you get to see it publicly, because we're really not going to do any major public screenings, because it interferes with festivals if you have public screenings. And there's a certain festival etiquette that eventually I'm going to do a workshop here locally about festival etiquette, because a lot of filmmakers don't understand that you shouldn't have your film out on Vimeo and Facebook and YouTube at the same time you're in a festival circuit, because the festival wants to be able to showcase your film and have that exclusivity while that is happening, because we sell tickets to the film festival.
And people to see it.
Why should I watch it if I could watch it for free on YouTube? So they have to learn that it becomes a hidden thing for that year you're in the festival. So Knockout won't be seen publicly until we're at a festival circuit. But
I didn't know that. That's really fascinating, because I get it from a filmmaker. They just want to get their film out there.
Sure, and that's great.
Yeah.
But if you're going to a festival, you probably want to see it for the first time.
A lot of major festivals will exclude you from it. I don't, but I do contact the filmmakers and say, hey, I wish you didn't do that. But I'm going to do this workshop, and part of the workshops about, because the workshop I want to do is how to make a winning short. So basically being involved with festivals all these years and seeing what wins and what has won in other festivals, just kind of give people that, like, this is what makes something worthwhile, and then show those award-winning films, those award-winning shorts, and then festival etiquette, because now that I'm involved with film festivals, to say, this is what we need from you, this is what we want, this is what we expect, and if you want to have a good relationship with film festivals, this is what you should do. And a lot of filmmakers already know it, and they give me what I need for the festival, but a lot of others don't, and it's like, come on guys, you really need to know this stuff. So, but who's teaching it? So I figured I will do it. So a lot of them, you don't even think about it. So I what's nice about doing the smaller festival, like Short Circuit, and we'll get back to the film in a minute, is I know a lot of the filmmakers, so I can call them up and say, hey, you shouldn't do this or whatever. So, but I thought, well, why don't I just wrap it together into a little workshop that we can do when peak film forum comes back.
And you ought to film it and perhaps make it available.
Yeah, probably is what we'll do.
Yeah, unless you put it in a festival.
Yeah. And then I can't. So back to Knockout is, so we're just about ready for the festival circuit, and I'm really excited by it.
Now, a lot of people judge films like, because I'm a big baseball fan, and then some of the movies, the guy doesn't even look like he could, play Little League.
I'm glad you brought this up.
But your actors in this movie? I mean,
we did some auditioning for that, and the actor that I chose, Cass Brado, he's a young guy. At the time, he was just 21. And when I met him, I was very impressed with him. I had a 2-hour meeting. This was before he even auditioned. And I knew I wanted to work with him, but I didn't think he was right to be a boxer.
Mm.
And I said, well, first of all, you're not in exact shape. He goes, well, I'll get in shape. I said, okay, we'll see. Well, we did the audition, and he did. He got into shape. But with all the other actors we asked if they've ever done any boxing or if they've ever been hit in the face, they all said yes. Cass was the only one who had never had any experience with that kind of thing. But he was a sports guy. He played hockey. So I said, that's a rough
close
sport.
enough. Yeah.
There's some fighting in hockey.
There's a lot of fighting in hockey.
Yeah. But Cass did this video that maybe it wouldn't always work, but it worked for me. But he sent this video where he did it in character and he wrote his own monologue. And he just shot himself in front of a mirror and he was just talking. He goes, basically, the character's name is Joe Gillis. And he was just talking about what it is to be a fighter and how he could taste it. He knows that it's something he needed to do. And I am Joe Gillis. And I went, wow, anybody who's willing to do that. I mean, he really impressed me. And he won the role. Now, he didn't know how to box. So we were looking for locations. We found this perfect location up in Denver called Touch of Sleep Gym, which is owned by DeVarrell Williamson, who is a professional heavyweight boxer. And I hired DeVarrell to train Cass. Wow. So he had a couple of sessions. So Cass learned what it was like to be a boxer. So we had the moves. He knew what it was like.
Did he get hit in the face?
And during the movie, yes, we had two other boxers that we brought on the film. Let's see. Oh yeah, Stefan Stevens and Sammy Vasquez. And Sammy is a great, wonderful guy, and he knows how to box. So it's great having real boxers, to play some of the other characters in the film. And yeah, Sammy hit him once, maybe twice. But not bad, because I kept saying, whatever you guys do not hurt this guy's nose. Do not do that, But it's inevitable, and we knew that it could happen. So Cass is proud to say that he finally got that punch in the face that we asked him if he ever did, and he said no. Now he can say yes.
That's neat. You talked earlier about loving boxing movies, and you named like two of the most famous boxing movies.
Well, we were talking earlier, yeah. So of course everybody loves Rocky, and then
all 5 of them, 6 of them,
maybe not all of them,
yeah.
But we do.
You can tell how interested they are by which one they end on.
It's true, but of course, besides the film noir films about boxing, Raging Bull was the one that really impressed me.
Oh yeah,
so much so that we decided to do Knockout as a black and white film, as a tribute to that, but also a tribute to the noir films of the past. So it was just fun. I've always loved black and white, even as a photographer. Some of you are familiar with some of my work, and I'll do a color shot occasionally, but I usually just make it be black and white because that's the world I grew up in. I grew up as learning photography is black and white, and I really wasn't a color photographer. So I see a lot of films that way. I see a lot of films of using black and white as a background.
Even on YouTube, there's lots of old boxing matches in black and white, Dempsey and whatnot, that have 20 million views. I mean, it's there's for whatever reason, there's definitely sort of a cult following of that, and
and like true boxing is kind of, I don't want to say it's fading, but there's more people involved with MMA and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like taking over. It's like the modern part of it. But to do the true boxing, this is just a certain history of it, and there's a certain elegance to it, really, that I've learned. What's nice is when you're a filmmaker or a writer, and you pick a certain thing that you're going to write about, even if you don't know much about it, well, you learn about it, and then you become educated. Mm-hmm. And that was the fascinating part about this, was becoming educated. So when Cass was training with DeVarrell, I went and shot behind the scenes of it, just so that we would have this footage for Jamie doing this behind the scenes documentary.
Cool.
And it was at that moment that I felt like we were really making a film, because it was like, yeah, this is what you do for a film of this level, is you hire somebody to train the guy to make sure they know what they're doing. And it felt good. Mm-hmm. It was definitely worth the money to do it, because you knew you were going to do it right. And even though it's a film about boxing, there's very little boxing in the film. It's really about this relationship that this character has with these other people. Because it's called Knockout because my guy gets knocked out within the first round of all of his fights until he learns what you say. He gets like that kind of Rocky term, the eye of the tiger, whatever it is. That's what he's lacking. And so, and then it's an interesting film because it's a film about boxing with very little boxing in it.
Well, we're going to be really excited to find out what film festivals it's in case people want to go see it.
Eventually, hopefully, I can make big announcements.
Yeah, that would be great. We're going to go to our final break, and then when we return back with our very, very, very special guest, Ralph Weir.
I think you missed a very.
And I'm going to watch future episodes and see if I get out buried by somebody.
Yeah, I'm gonna. We might even put a sign in the back. We'll wrap up with some final comments when we come back. Welcome back to the third chair with our very, 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 very special guest, Ralph Giordano. And we have a running joke on the set of how many varies I'm going to say and my lack of picking other adjectives or whatever adverbs.
Yeah.
And so we're in our final segment now, and one last question, and that is, if you had a superpower for filmmaking, what would that be?
That's interesting. I think, first and foremost, what people always think about in wanting to make a film is, how am I going to get the money to do it right? So I wish my superpower would be a way to just get unlimited funds to not only make a film for myself, but I would love to be that resource. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked earlier about giving grants out and stuff. Like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great to like win the lottery, you know, and win that 300 million. And we could start foundations, and we can start grant programs, and not just for filmmakers, but for all artists. And what a wonderful job that would be, to be able to then help artists and filmmakers and whatnot achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. To me, that would be the superpower I would want.
I mean, what a phenomenal thought! If even someone in high school that was thinking about being an artist could get a $300 or $500 grant to work on something for the summer, just to encourage them.
Yeah, I have filmmakers now that, you know, when you say, you know, what if I gave you $1,000? They would go, oh my God, that's more than we made their past 4 films. I'm thinking, doesn't take much. No. But imagine if they had that, like, what would they be able to do with it? But not just say, here's the money, but maybe even be able to help them and say, now, how could you best manage this so you're doing it the right way? You're not just throwing it away on something that maybe, you know, you don't need to do it, you know, that way. But I think first and foremost, what a lot of filmmakers are doing now is they're trying the crowdfunding route. Which is hard because it's a job, you know. If it's a 30 or 60 day thing, you have to be promoting it for those days, and basically the people who are giving you money are basically friends and family. You know, so it's just an easier way for them to like give you credit card money to make a film. But a lot of people are just saying, you know, if I could just raise $10,000, now that's a lot of money, but not really. You know, when you're making a film, because what they want to raise the money for is to be able to give back, because for years they've been making films and not paying their crew that they've just been coming because they want to make a film. Now they want to make this money so they could at least pay them something.
Yeah.
And make them feel like it was worthwhile. So imagine if you had that kind of money to be able to say, well, now I want to hire you because I really love you as an actor, and now I can give you this. I think that would be the benefit.
Well, even for extras. I mean, I've done a bunch of. I was an extra on the set with a movie with Redford and Fonda. Our Souls at Night.
Right here, they shot it in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, and also down in where did we go? Florissant or someplace.
Yeah.
I actually
went
stood.
to Orway.
I stood beside Jane Fonda and Robert Redford for 4 hours. I was not allowed to look at them. I wasn't allowed to take their picture, but I did sneak one when they weren't looking with my little camera.
I talked to young Sheldon.
Yeah.
Before he was young Sheldon.
But it was nice, even for being an extra that day and bringing my car down. After, for 6 hours work, I think they gave me $150. And
it's always nice to be acknowledged, and
I've done a lot of extra work where I wanted to help out the filmmaker, and it's like, they fed me lunch, and I was grateful for that. But if you got a little something more, I think it does go a long way for getting people on your side for the next project.
And I think it was also beneficial for you, not just only as an actor, but as a filmmaker, to be on a huge set like that and just see how it's run, how it's done, and say, oh, this is what I need for my next film. Or maybe, okay, that's a little bit too much. I know I don't need all that. But you kind of get an idea of what goes into a Hollywood film when you're actually on one.
Yeah, it was.
And we've been fortunate enough to have some of them happen here. So.
Yeah, it was. Well, is there any other thoughts you would like to leave our audience with?
There was a question that you had asked in the notes about what advice I would give, I think.
Yeah.
And basically the advice I would give, I might have touched upon it earlier too, is always go after your dream. That's one thing I learned from my dad is, don't ever sell yourself short. Just keep going. And so I would never tell anybody not to pursue their dream. You never know. Just go for it. Good. Just you have to try. If you don't try, you'll never know. Boy,
that's really good advice. Well said. Well, with that, what kind of information would you like to leave with? Well, we'll put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Contact for your business ventures, Peak Film Forum.
I'll give you all that.
We'll put it up there, and if people are interested in hiring your firm, do they normally just give you a call, send you an email? How do you usually operate that way?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Well, with
whatever
that,
it takes.
Thank you so much, Ralph,
Thank you.
for being here.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we're so grateful that you made it out, and hopefully there's not too much snow falling so you can get home safely.
Yes. Thanks.
We'll see you next week from the third chair.
Thank you.
This has been the third chair. Next week, our guest will be Josh Krameyer. Want to be a guest? Want to sponsor our show? Send us an email. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media.